Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime series with me, Kevin Britz, proudly powered by leadershipbydesign.co, leading the charge with insights, information, and ultimately effective results. Joining me in our marketing and leadership segment, marketing communications expert and co-host Craig Pagely. How are you doing, Craig?
Kevin, I'm great. Thanks. Yeah, good to be chatting again. And I really like the intro today because we sat at the end of last year having a discussion on the whole positioning of the show and where to next. And those are the beautiful lines that came out of that discussion.
Yeah, it wasn't just a sort of a quick, let's put this here. There was an actual thought.
And it just sounds so good as they rolled off the tongue there. So yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, how's it going your side? You're making good progress on all the business proposals you're busy submitting.
You know, like I was just mentioning now, it's so exciting and there's a very fine line between like really getting stuff done and kind of getting despondent.
Yes.
The moment you kind of go, oh, you know, why isn't this working? Why is this not working? You know, one of the things that I say to Lauren, and she might be listening, I say to Lauren is never forget that action creates motion, right? So the more action you take, the more motion you create, and the more motion you create, the more things just start happening and falling into place. So, you know, and because some of my clients taking their time, doing their thing, and like everyone has their time schedules for stuff. In between that, I've just been taking action and creating motion. And because of that, there's just been a beautiful sense of new proposals, new activities, new connections, people introducing me to new concepts, ideas, and so that sort of positioning is happening currently in February for me, which I'm loving because it's really opening ideas and doors that I didn't anticipate would open.
That's fantastic.
And you're still busy on your big, well, we can't say which big project, but you could, like, it's a big project. You're doing well.
Goodness me, Kevin, it is probably the biggest in the shortest period of time, the biggest project of a brand positioning campaign that I've ever worked on. It's insane. Phenomenal team, just loving the local international connection, sharing of best ideas, and a client that is just so incredible in terms of capacity, ability, foresight, and things like that. So just great energy. So yeah, working long hours, but it's phenomenal to see the response we've already had in phase 1 of Reveal. So phase 2 coming next week, and then it'll unlock into the bigger campaign positioning, and then it'll roll for a period of time. So, but yes, gosh, walking zombie at times, but yeah, looking forward to see the big reveal next week.
Big reveal next week, fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, Craig, we had another insightful conversation last week when we covered the top 5 leadership trends that will drive success in 2024. So, guys, if you want to go and check that out, go and check it out on the Lunchtime series. A nice, fascinating conversation, and we covered some really nice, beautiful trends happening in 2024. Craig, what's up for discussion in this week's conversation?
Yeah, Kevin, so I really want to expand on the topic of leadership. Obviously, we're in a theme of leadership coaching for the month of February, switching out at the end of next month into again, at least the end of this month, I should say, into our marketing and comms segment. So yeah, this time I want to review an article that I came across on McKinsey.com titled, "What is Leadership?" And the reason I picked up on this for the show is that we've spoken about the different principles over the last 3 years, but we've never really sat down and said, okay, let's interrogate what is this thing called leadership. So I thought, and because this is your specific area of expertise, I thought, we can probe you and get some nice conversation. Like last week with the articles you're releasing and publishing, there's a nice parallel and segue between various conversations. So the article was published to the Features Insight section on McKinsey.com, and it contains some really interesting points of view on the topic of leadership. But yeah, I really want to just open the conversation with reading 2 paragraphs from the article, and then to jump away and look at the definitions around leadership, and then possibly some of the leadership styles, and then come back into the raw content of the article. So to start off with, the article starts as follows: all leaders, to a certain degree, do the same thing. Whether you're talking about an executive manager, sports coach, a school teacher, leadership is about guiding and impacting outcomes, and I really like that. It's about enabling groups of people to work together to accomplish what they couldn't do working individually. In this sense, leadership is something you do, not something you are. And again, another really important point there. Some people in formal leadership positions are poor leaders. Yes, we've both come across them in our respective careers. And many people exercising leadership actually have no formal authority in terms of training and capability. However, it's their actions and not their words that are actually inspiring trust and energy in the organizations that they work in. So what's more, Kevin, leadership is not something people are born with. It's a skill you can learn. Hence you being in this particular vocation, because you're teaching people these skills. At the core, mindsets which are expressed through observable behaviors, which then lead to measurable outcomes. Is a leader communicating effectively or engaging others by being a good listener? Focusing on behaviors lets us be more objective when assessing leadership effectiveness. And the key to unlocking shifts in behavior is focusing on mindset, becoming more conscious about our thoughts and beliefs, and showing up with integrity as our full, authentic selves. And these three last lines really talk to many of the thoughts and concepts that you've shared, both on the show and in your book as well, Kevin. So there are many contexts and ways in which leadership is exercised, but according to McKinsey's analysis of academic literature, as well as, take note, a survey of nearly 200,000 people in 81 organizations all over the world, there are principally 4 types of behavior that account for 89% of leadership effectiveness. And the first behavior there is being supportive. The second is operating with a strong results orientation. The third is seeking different perspectives. The fourth is solving problems effectively. And when you get to understand and leverage those 4, effective leaders know what works in one situation will not necessarily work in another, or at another time, or every single time. And leadership strategies must therefore reflect each organization's context and stage of evolution in the principles of their business and of the leadership capability. And one important lens is organizational health, which is a holistic set of factors that actually enable organizations to grow and succeed over time, Kevin.
Craig, what's interesting about the way that they've languaged this article, or some of these paragraphs, is leadership is something you do, it's not something you are.
I love it.
So, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing that you understand that when you step into a role of leadership, it's an actual skill set. It's like learning how to become an accountant, right? It's a skill that you learn, and you kind of go, okay, if this does this, then this equals that. Leadership is pretty much the same thing, right? You can actually learn the set of skills to kind of go, okay, this is what a leader needs to do. And when you do X, Y, and Z, these are the potential results you're going to get. And if you don't get those results, learn something else, change it up, and do something else, right? But essentially, being supportive, operating with a strong result orientation, seeking different perspectives, and solving problems effectively. As a leader, I always see, and that's why the program that we're doing with Leader as Coach is so instrumental currently and so relevant in our work environments, because if you do not have results at the end of what it is you're doing, what's the point of you?
Exactly.
Right? Why are you there as a leader? You shouldn't be there as a leader. You should essentially have results in what it is you're doing, and be able to reflect back and say, okay, well, if this is a set of results I'm getting, then what I'm doing is working. And if it's not working, do something else, right? And I think people sometimes get stuck behind a title or behind, their enormity or their ego, and kind of go, yeah, but I'm the boss. And you go like, well, yeah, but get over the boss quickly. Just get over that title so that you can get to Is what you're doing working? And if it's not working, stop doing it, do something else.
Absolutely. And so many organizations have layers of title which actually don't support the demonstration of what that title is about. So you may be a leader, but you're not able to demonstrate leadership. Kevin, but just jumping back into the article, I think one of the key things here is to understand how leadership is evolving. In the past, in fact, in current times, even, leadership is really just called management in so many respects. And the emphasis is around technical expertise and giving direction to the business and things like that. And it's been about command and control, where leaders focused exclusively on just extracting maximum value for shareholders, as opposed to really looking deep into the organization and growing the business. So in those respective organizations, leaders had three principal roles: planners, guys who develop the strategy, then translating the strategy into concrete steps, then the directors actually assign these responsibilities, and then controllers who actually ensure that people do what they've been assigned to do and adhere to the plans that they've been given. So very much that sort of command and control kind of proposition. And the world is filled with organizations like that to this day still. But actually there are limits of traditional management styles. And we definitely seen an evolution of a migration away from that sort of control and command kind of principle, to very much more a participative approach where it breaks down the rigidity of that kind of leadership style. Interestingly, though, if you look at some stats from the UK, a large portion of American workers, 56%, claim their boss is mildly or highly toxic, while 75% say dealing with their managers is the most stressful part of their workday. So that just talks directly into that command and control principle and delivery of leadership, which in itself is a contradiction, because if you're delivering leadership, you wouldn't have these kinds of results emanating from that performance.
Craig, like you say this, I mean, 56% is half your business, right? It's 75% is dealing with is the most stressful part of their workday. So, one of the things that we do when we do the leaders coach approach is we send out a brand survey of you as a person, and we say, well, let's ask people who report to you if they like you or if they don't like you, and what does your brand say about you? And when you first engage leaders at that level, they are quite taken aback, because they kind of go, oh wow, what if people say stuff that they shouldn't say, and you kind of go, yeah, but being a leader also means you're responsible, right? And that means you're not always going to have fans, but have the emotional intelligence and the aptitude and ability to kind of acknowledge when you made a mistake or when you acted a fool, like at least have the chutzpah to a large degree, but also the common decency and the humanity to kind of go, wow, guys, I'm so sorry, I've lost my cool. I'm so sorry, I took it out on you. We shouldn't have done it. And I made a mistake, right? Because that also speaks to authenticity and vulnerability, right? Have the capability of being vulnerable and showing people that it's okay that you made a mistake. You're not always going to get it right. But at 75%, of people saying, that's their worst stressful moment is to deal with.
That's right. No, that's quite daunting and quite negative. Yeah. Fortunately, though, Kevin, in this sort of woke, super sensitive, enlightened world that we are living in at the moment, there's definitely a fundamental shift to a much more effective approach to leadership. And today's leaders are really beginning to focus on building more agile, human-centered, digitally enabled organizations to be able to thrive in these tough, unprecedented times. And some of this we actually touched on as part of the leadership trends of last week. And it's important because they really need to meet the needs of the broader stakeholders, which is customers, it's your employees, it's your suppliers, and the communities that we talk about, and then obviously investors and shareholders. But the people in the communities that the business serves is a critical part to engage in that as well, Kevin. So just on that point, let's quickly jump to one or two definitions which I found quite fascinating. So again, good old default wiki here says, leadership, both as a research area and as a practical skill, encompasses the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead, influence, or guide other individuals, teams, or entire organizations. So yeah, again, it is about lead yourself, lead the team around you, lead the entire organization, lead the community, and the ability to expand beyond just in that singular. And then from that, it talks about how many kinds of leadership style there are. There's a really great article on HubSpot, again, one of the great content sources that looks at 11 different leadership styles. There's also a really great article on Business Leadership Today, which looks at 8 different leadership styles. But I wanted to just quickly, there's a single line reference for the 11 leadership styles mentioned on the blog hubspot.com article, and I want to read these before we go into the next portion of the article, because these will play into that, and I'd love to hear your point of view here. So the first one here is democratic leadership, which is decisions based on input. The second is autocratic leadership, which is decisions from a single source. The next is laissez-faire leadership. Decisions come from individual employees. Then strategic leadership, where decisions are based on strategy and goals. Transformational leadership, which is about pushing to think and work in new ways. Transactional leadership, where employees get rewarded for work. And I have a reservation about that, in the sense that you have a job, you get paid a salary. If you've got clearly defined roles that are commensurate with the effort and remuneration, then you shouldn't have to be rewarding people for more, putting more rewards in just to get the foundation of delivery from a work point of view. The next one is coaching leadership, which very much speaks to your expertise here, which is about leader nurtures individuals. Then there's bureaucratic leadership, which is decisions come from company policy, good or bad. Visionary leadership, which is energetic focus on the future. I really like that. And then pace-setting leadership, which is leaders set ambitious goals. Again, I do also like that. And then situational leadership, where decisions and leadership styles vary by situation. And I think that talks directly into the agility aspect, being nimble, being agile, both as an organization and as a leader, Kevin. So 11 principles of leadership, and many effective leaders will demonstrate a collective of more than one, obviously, but hopefully none of the negative sort of dictatorial aspects coming through there.
Yeah, Craig, as you were speaking through it, as you said, an astute leader who knows how to lead, knows which leadership style to tap into, because sometimes situational, if you're in a certain circumstance and the situation is of a certain nature, it's going to require you to show up in a certain kind of way.
I like that. Yes.
The same with coaching leadership. So essentially, when you step into a coaching leadership style, you've got to realize that the person I'm working with is not at the level that I need them to be at, right? So you would pose challenges, you would pose things that they can actually do and take care of. Sorry, my TikTok's just making noise. Thank you for all the prizes, guys. But again, like visionary, it's very often what people get wrong with visionary leadership, for example, is they want to put out their vision there, but they forget. Do you have enough people in place? Do you have the right people in place? Have you recruited the correct support structure to implement the visionary? So it's great to have visionary, because, on the Enneagram scale, I'm an enthusiastic visionary and I love creating wowness. It doesn't serve me doodly anything if I don't have actual practical implementation to put what I'm dreaming about and visioning into perspective or into practice, right? So I think, when you are a really sound leader and you do know what areas to play in, you know which style to call onto, because sometimes you have to be a little bit autocratic, right? When I'm making decisions about a business, or when it's going to cost money, it's not a negotiable. Let's not debate about it. This is what I want, this is how it's going to happen, this is what I need done, right? That's not, you have to be autocratic about that, because you as the leader in that environment know the consequences that other people might not know. So really tapping into your leadership styles, and that's why there are so many. It's how agile and able are you to tap into it so that you are an effective one.
Absolutely. What's really great is these new emerging approaches to leadership, Kevin. So, a really interesting piece that stood out in the article here is the reference to the new approach being defined as servant leadership. And for some people, it's in itself a bit of a difficult concept to get around, but really it is about, rather than being a manager directing, controlling people, it's a more effective approach for leaders actually to be in the service of the people they lead. And I know that is something that you picked up on in some of your conversations before, being in service of those that you lead. And the focus is now how leaders can actually make the lives of their team members much easier, both physically, cognitively, and emotionally. And research actually suggests that mentality can actually enhance both team's performance and satisfaction, Kevin. So this is a new approach.
Just before you go into this, I just want to make a nice obvious statement here that what servant leadership isn't is being at the mercy of your employees. Just factually, that is not what servant leadership is.
Nice.
Very specifically, you want to be able to be of service, absolutely, but have wonderfully clear, accountable boundaries that are in place. Because if they're not, it's not saying that, as a leader, you need to be a doormat. It's saying, how are you in your capacity as the leader, a service to the people that work with you?
And that's such a great point that you make, because one of the important things is that the leader has to also practice some self-care in that regard as well. And in this new approach, leaders really are practicing a lot more empathy. They're demonstrating compassion, vulnerability, practicing gratitude and self-awareness, and implementing self-care as well. And they definitely provide appreciation, support, and they create that psychological safety net for employers. And within that environment, they're able to collaborate a lot more. They're driving a lot more innovation, and actually, it all leads to working together to celebrate the small steps on the way. But more broadly, Kevin, developing this new approach to leadership is expressed around making 5 key shifts, and these include the following: beyond executive to visionary, shaping a clear purpose that resonates with and generates holistic impact for all stakeholders. And it's not shareholders, it's stakeholders. That's a critical word to remember. It's beyond planner to architect. It's about reimagining industries and innovating business systems that are able to create new levels of value. And that's not just value through the till point. It's beyond director to catalyst. It's about engaging people to collaborate in open, empowered networks. It's beyond controller to coach, enabling the organization to constantly evolve through rapid and effective learning, enabling colleagues to actually build new mindsets, knowledge, and skills. And finally, it's beyond boss to human, showing up as someone's whole, authentic self, Kevin. And the collective of these shifts really help a leader expand their repertoire and create much bigger layers of value for the organization and their stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier.
Craig, I think so some of the stuff that shows up for me, or that some are like very obvious trigger points for me, and when I say maybe triggers or the wrong word to use, but essentially, beyond boss to human, showing up as your whole authentic self. That point in itself, you cannot emphasize more than truly just like sitting down and asking yourself, like, if you worked for you, would you be happy? Like someone said it the other day, like, would you sit at the dinner table and talk about your boss and go, wow, my boss, you won't believe what he did today. Like if you're not that guy, then you're probably not the greatest boss, right? And when the person said that to me, I was like, yeah, that's so true, because essentially, what's beautiful about being a great leader is when people are saying great things about you when you're not in the room, right? And
Yes.
that only happens when you really appeal to them as a human and kind of go, I see you, I hear you, I acknowledge that you're going through a tough time. I mean, and I work with Lauren is my go-to for this very often, because we have these moments, and she might be going through stuff, and I hear her and I see her, and when we get past the human stuff, we kind of go, okay, cool, let's get on with the work, let's go. And just taking the time to see someone in the capacity that they're important as humans first, fuels their energy and motivates them, like from an internal perspective, right?
Yeah.
That's the point of just being human before being anything else.
100%, Kevin. And yeah, the next section of the article plays a lot to some of the stuff that I position around the conversation on employee branding and the employee value proposition and some of the other projects I work on. And that really is about, organizations whose leaders successfully empower others through coaching, take notes, are nearly 4 times more likely to make swift, good decisions and outperform other companies. And this type of coaching isn't always natural for those with more controlling or autocratic styles. But the important thing here is that it's about making that physically, cognitive, and emotionally safe space for the staff to step into, and then finding that absolute empirical link between effective leadership, employee satisfaction, customer loyalty, and profitability. And for me, when you've got the effective leadership, the employee satisfaction, the customer loyalty triangle rigid, what sits at the middle then could be profitability. And you can interchange, and I always look at concepts around a triangular sort of framework, because the rigid triangle, if you take one of the components away, there is no form to it at all. And so you've got to have at minimum 3 pillars of absolute commitment, strength, and rigidity in what you're delivering, and the sweet spot in the middle in each instance could be interchangeable. But that effective leadership driving employee satisfaction, driving customer loyalty, and obviously better bottom line for an organization, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, Craig, with the Wings program that we're busy designing, speaking about the triangle, there's three points that you can sort of point to, is when implementing anything like this, we're looking at profit, people, and process, the 3 Ps to success kind of thing. How is your people doing? How's your process doing? And how is your profit doing? And if you can use the Wings in that concept, then you've got a winning formula. And I think that's exactly to your point you're saying with mindset at the helm. And if I stand under correction, but I know that the Arbiter Institute of Leadership actually did a process with McKinsey, and they also speak about the 4 times more likely to have success, depending on whether you start with mindset or whether you don't, right? And it really makes you think when you kind of look at any program or project or kind of change that you're putting together and putting out there into the world, when you have a team that is really committed to what you're doing and is supported with the right mindset, there's very little that can stop it from being successful.
Correct.
So on every program I do now, I kind of go, okay, mindset first, then we'll figure the rest out. It always starts with mindset.
Brilliant. So there are 5 sort of tips to get leaders more empowered, or at least to get leaders to be able to make their employees more empowered. And the 5 steps are noted as follows, Kevin. Provide clear rules, for example, by providing guardrails for what success looks like and communicating who makes which decisions. Clarity and boundary structures like role remits and responsibilities help to contain any anxiety associated with work, and it actually helps teams stay focused on the primary tasks. The next year is establish clear roles, say by assigning one person the authority to make certain decisions. Avoid being a complicit manager. For instance, if you delegate a decision to a team, don't step in and solve the problem for them. Address culture and skills, for instance, by helping employees learn how to have difficult conversations, and begin soliciting personal feedback from others. We spoke about this last week, actually, at all levels of your organization on how you actually are experiencing, at least how the team are experiencing you as a leader, Kevin.
And Greg, for guys, if you're listening to this now, wonderful. And Greg, this model is a beautiful model that you can use to start this process is the McKinsey 7S model. I've just recently done this with a client, and what it does do is it in just pure, wonderful, basic format just unpacks your values, unpacks your structure, your systems, your strategy, your staff, and it goes through the 7 S's of just creating clarity for your business. And once it's there, it's on paper, and you go, okay, cool. Now let's go from here. So it's a beautiful model to support this empowering leaders.
I'm really glad to see that the topic of communication came through in the article again, because I harp on about this constantly, firstly because I am in the industry of communications, and really it's just about understanding how leaders can actually communicate effectively. And good, clear communication is definitely one of the hallmarks of effective leadership, Kevin. Fundamental tools for effective communication include the following: defining and pointing to long-term goals, listening to and understanding stakeholders, creating openings for dialogue, very important, communication aspect, communicating proactively, and then it just unpacks 6 other points, which are really relevant in these unprecedented times of uncertainty. Very key for communication during times of crisis. Give people what they need when they need it. Communicate clearly, simply, and frequently. Choose candor over charisma. Revitalize a spirit of resilience. Distill meaning from chaos. And support people, teams, and organizations to build the capability for self-sufficiency. Because at the end of the day, that's probably one of the greatest demonstrations of effective leadership.
Yeah, and Greg, like your point to communication, I always, I don't always get it right, but I know, working with you, communication is such a instrumental part and process of really achieving what it is you want to achieve at the end of the day. And if you are not, and I've gone to the point of over communicating and kind of go, just over communicate so that you unpack it to that degree. So you go, oh, okay, cool. Because essentially we all learn different. We all have different styles of understanding information in any case. So if you just look at communication as one of the things that you want to point out here is creating openings for dialogue.
Yeah, that's
like
great.
Not just having dialogue, creating openings. So like how in your leadership and what it is you're doing currently, what are the moments that you're taking to open dialogue and say, how do you guys feel? What is the process? What is the problem? How do you open dialogue so that you create those moments so that people actually feel like they can connect with you? Else they just see you as the other title or the guy that sits in that office. So opening the dialogue, I think that's a really important statement.
I like that. I really do. And I think the next portion of the article really talks to a concept which I think we must have a whole show just on this particular proposition here. And what does leadership in a hybrid workplace look like, Kevin? Really, really lots of layers to this conversation, but just sort of at the broadest level here. It's a real challenge because leaders here need to shape what they would have experienced being physically present with people around them to understanding what those hybrid models look like, and actually, building and orchestrating work based on tasks, interaction, or purpose and really being communicative. Again, the word communicative, and positively working with teams, which really will drive that linkage and bring the teams along. But leaders also need to find other ways to be present, because they can't always be accessible. So they need to, what are those virtual drop-in sessions? What are the regular company podcasts or virtual town halls? How often are you doing that? Have you changed the dynamic and tempo of those? And just probably most importantly is finding ways to get this authentic feedback through the virtual hybrid world, Kevin, and the likes of pulse surveys, or learning to ask thoughtful follow-up questions after each one of the sessions and town halls that actually reveal some more of those useful managerial clues to help you guide, or to help guide you in your leadership style.
Craig, I'm going to make a statement, and I know that it might be bold, but it's a conversation that I've had with someone that actually a couple of months ago teaches people how to do this. And
oh, wow.
We already know how to, one of the things that we speak about in the marketing and communication segment is the importance of what kind of content people are looking at. So, leaders really, and I'm looking at CEOs, heads of departments, really need to lean into creating video content and sharing video content to their audiences and to their employees, because the moment they lean into that, that's what people relate to. Currently, that's how people consume information.
Yeah.
You send out a wonderful newsletter and it's 15 paragraphs long. You probably 3% of the people who receive it are going to read it. If you send out a video of 2 minutes long, far more people are likely to watch it, right? And it's purely based on the fact that that's speaking to who we currently are on the planet.
Yes. But I think one of the important things that leaders really need to understand here is that, obviously in the traditional sense, pre the hybrid model, everybody was in person and working together, but it's about questioning the effectiveness and relevance of that. Does working together have a purpose? And what is the purpose in this instance here? And then, taking a step back and having that eye on inclusivity in the hybrid workplace, listening to what employees want, keeping an eye out and really being close to their lived experience in both in the environment of work and out the environment of work, and actually just learning from that and then adapting your leadership style to ensure the focus of outputs, outcomes, results, and impact, rather than just the arbitrary norms of measurement around time in the office. And the time in the office may also mean that you're just not being effective, whereas we're seeing in many other reports there's a lot more productivity happening in some of the work from home hybrid environments, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. What else do we have on this conversation or this document that we're sharing today, Craig?
Kevin, yes. So what it does do is it just picks up on a concept that was spoken about last week as well, in that leadership development. It's important for leaders to have a development program in place to ensure that they also having the opportunity to adapt and grow and learn new practices throughout their journey as leaders. And really just developing leaders is about creating context where there's sufficient psychological safety for themselves, and a combination of enough novelty and unfamiliarity to take note, cultivate new leadership practices in response to the stimuli that they've been exposed to.
What's interesting, I was just reading there, with what is leadership development? Leaders aren't born, they learn to lead over time. And it refers to neuroplasticity, refers to the power of the brain to form new pathways and connections through exposure to novel, unfamiliar experiences. So again, that's why becoming a leader and becoming a great leader requires you to learn over time, and also requires you to learn and lean into what makes you uncomfortable, right? Because that's where the neuroplasticity starts formulating new neuron connections, and you're suddenly learning a skill. So yeah, it's I love this conversation. we could
I thought you would.
we could carry on for a lot more. So Craig, that's all we have for today, right? Because
that's correct. Yes,
we're already running out of time, guys. So if you want to check out this information, we'll put it in the description box below, so you can check out where you can find the link of this information. But Craig, for the QOT, I thought you're going to like this one. I suppose leadership at one time meant muscles, but today it means getting along with people. And that was from Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Guys, please remember to like and share, and tune into the Lunchtime Shares every week, Wednesday and Thursday. For myself and Craig, have a fantastic week. Craig, thank you so much for joining us, and I will chat to you soon.
Fantastic, Kevin. Look forward to that. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.